Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Some extended thoughts here on this win by Anthony Joshua, the aftermath, and some people must have really lost some money on Andy Ruiz Jr. because not only are they down on him, but also Joshua's performance. And I'm sure you've seen some of the comments around the place. People are saying Joshua fought scared. He had fear in his eyes, that he is not a warrior. And actually, here's a comment on screen that someone called Astros fan. Ruiz knocked him out. Joshua won by running. He's been exposed, not a true warrior. So I want to touch on some of the things related to this win because I think some of the anti-Joshua sentiment just really goes a little bit over the top. Deontay Wilder, he's also responded to Joshua's win, given a few comments to The Athletic. I want to pick them apart too because he's acting like he would have gone beast mode in there. But does he always fight that way? Because that's not, Wilder himself has adjusted his fight plans to the person that's in front of you. And I think this is what's getting lost on a lot of people that don't want to give Joshua credit for the win is it's elite heavyweight boxing. This was the biggest fight of the year against Andy Ruiz Jr., who'd caused a massive shock upset in June. Joshua had to win. So he did execute a game plan that kept him out of trouble and maximized his advantages and also starved Andy Ruiz Jr. of the opportunities he needed to get into the fight and potentially beat Joshua. Joshua took those away. And I think people have lost sight of a win is a win because I'm sure this same person, Astros fan, would have been calling for Anthony Joshua to retire had he have actually lost to Andy Ruiz Jr. And there's a lot of people who refuse to give Joshua credit for this win against a good competitor who himself has really sort of torched himself and almost done some irreparable damage to his own reputation. I'll come to Andy Ruiz Jr. later because some of the things that he said, he's actually making it worse for himself, and I don't even think that he realizes it. But in terms of the win, I rate this as a good win. It's not an all-time great win, but Joshua did a lot of things in there that people said he couldn't do. A lot of the people who are now sort of throwing fire towards him and saying he's scared, he was a coward, got fear and yada, 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 they would have been the same people who were saying Joshua can't move for 12 rounds. He's too big, he's too robotic, he can't implement that sort of style. But what he did prove is extreme adaptability. He was able to prove to the world he does have another arrow in his quiver. He has a back foot game which he can rely on, and the movement and just how he fought in general. That's not something we've seen really from Anthony Joshua. He overhauled his body, his game plan, and he executed his fight plan to a T, convincing decision in the end. But some of the criticism of the win is just completely over the top. It really does come down to hate. I don't know why some people can't just say, yep, he actually did a good job. He got his belts back. And at the end of the day, that's what matters. I know people wanted Ruiz to win, but it didn't happen. But why take away from Joshua's performance through silly comments? Because in terms of this Astro fan guy, he says, he was exposed as not a true warrior. What was he meant to do? Was he meant to make zero adjustments and just, go into center ring and start just banging away and trying to, do nothing different from the first fight? He would have been absolutely pillared for that. And I'm sure people would have been saying Joshua didn't learn anything if he got beaten, and some people would have again been saying it's time to put him on the scrap heap and retire. I mean, people just go completely over the top. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I saw a good comment from Julian J. Rock Williams. Obviously, he had been beaten earlier in his career by one of the Charlos, knocked out brutally, and then he fought Jarrett Hurd, and he beat the unified champion, took his belts. And after that fight, he said, fans have got to, just ease up and stop being ridiculous. If someone gets beaten, it doesn't mean that they're done as a fighter, that they can come again and they can have good careers. And he's had another good comment which he's put up. He said, a few weeks ago, boxing fans were complaining about Wilder not having enough skill and only having one-punch KO power. This week, those same fans are complaining Joshua showed too much skill and fought like a heavyweight Mayweather. #can't please boxing fans. And I'm not sure it's the same fans exactly, because I think some of the anti-Joshua sentiment comes from, people who are not his fans. They're either fans of Tyson Fury, Andy Ruiz Jr. or Deontay Wilder. And some of the people who were knocking Wilder probably weren't his fans. But you got to say, Joshua and Wilder, in recent fights, they've got the job done. And this is where it's been quite interesting, because even Deontay Wilder doesn't fight the same every single time. The result may be the same. A win and a knockout win, or, let's put aside the Tyson Fury draw, but generally knockout wins. But he doesn't come in just, going to the center ring, banging away, which I found it quite interesting. He actually said, of Joshua's win, he did what he had to do, etc. But further on, and this was comments to The Athletic, I'm not coming in after losing to this guy just to dance and grab and jab and hold. I'm going to show the world and convince them I'm the very best and that no one is close to me, especially with what's going on in the division right now. It's a time of proving who is the best. Joshua had many times he could have gone for the finish after he landed the right hand. When you land the right hand, you've tackled the distance, but when you land that punch, you're in the exact position for the second time around. But he was so hesitant. Joshua's mentality was to survive. The Klitschko method. The difference is my mentality is that of a beast, a warrior, a king, an emperor, all those things. If he calls himself a king, he's just on the nicer side of it. This is a brutal sport, and that's how I treat it. I ain't showing no love for anybody in that ring. And those comments, a lot of bravado there by Deontay Wilder, calling himself a beast, a warrior, a king, an emperor, and that he would have gone out there, show the world and convince them I'm the very best. But I just wondered, how well does this gel with some of his performances? Because there is different versions of Deontay Wilder, depending on who the opponent is. Let's face it, when he's fought Luis Ortiz the 2 times, there was very sedate and circumspect action for several rounds. Ahead of the knockout in that 7th round against Ortiz, Deontay Wilder was granting Luis Ortiz a lot of respect, and he was losing rounds. All 3 judges had Ortiz up on the cards for the second fight. And he didn't exactly go beast mode and start trading in the middle of the ring, as he's sort of suggesting that Joshua should have. He was holding off, waiting for his opportunity. And I think against the very best boxers that Wilder has faced, like an Ortiz, for example, he's been more of an assassin. He's been more of a sniper, looking for the opportunity. Eventually he finds it, gets the win. But it's not like he's always, fighting like he did against Berman Stavern or Dominic Breazeale. There's different versions of Wilder. So some of this, I think, is, he's taking away from Joshua's win to some extent. There's bravado. He believes he's the best in the division, and, Joshua regaining his title's probably not what he wanted to see. He predicted a Ruiz win, but, Deontay Wilder is in the Deontay Wilder business, so it's not a surprise that he's bigging himself up and taking a sly dig at Joshua. After all, I'm sure Fury and Joshua would do similar things in the same situation. But I do think some of the fan reaction overall has been, there's been a lot of shroud waving that Joshua somehow, let the world down because he fought to a disciplined game plan, used his height and reach and got a win. I mean, come on, it's ridiculous. And on Andy Ruiz Jr., just to finish off the video, because I wanted to swing back round to this, there was obviously the potential that this could be a Buster Douglas situation, not just the win over Mike Tyson, but then when he lost to Holyfield. Andy Ruiz Jr. has kind of completed that similar circuit. If he had have just taken the loss on the chin and not resorted to all these excuses that he's come out with, I think the comparisons with Douglas losing his title, I think they would have been a lot less, because if he'd have just come in and said, look, the better man won, he just outboxed me here, I just wasn't able to close the distance, I couldn't do it, what I wanted tonight, but that's full credit to Anthony Joshua. It would have been probably, 1, the classier thing to do, but 2, I think the Buster Douglas comparisons would have been a lot less. But him coming out so publicly saying he didn't train hard enough, that he was overweight and he put on too much weight, he didn't listen to his coaches, he didn't listen to his father, and he didn't, have a good enough camp, even though he had all the resources to do so. It really is a lot of egg on his face, and it looks terribly bad for him. He's actually harmed his image almost irreparably, I believe, and people will remember what he said, that he basically, and this is not what he said, but people will take it to be, he threw his opportunity away. He was the heavyweight champion of the world, and he threw it away because he couldn't work hard enough. He got overconfident, and effectively he's confirmed it's very similar to Buster Douglas in terms of losing to Holyfield, coming in 15 pounds heavier, not training hard enough, getting sort of lured in by the trappings of being a champion. And this has all been confirmed in excuses by Ruiz after the fight. And in some ways it's in incredibly poor taste, because he keeps saying in the third fight, but who wants to see that? You just had the opportunity of a lifetime, one, to win the belts outright and not have to, have Matchroom and Joshua on your back, because this was a rematch which was organized by them in that promotional vehicle. He could have gone on and fought an undisputed fight potentially with Deontay Wilder, or the winner of Wilder, whatever. There could have been, all sorts of things he could have gone and done. He ate himself to 283 pounds in the final weeks of his camp, because he admitted he had lost a lot of weight. That wasn't fake. But then he ate himself to 283, got overconfident, and he lost. And then he comes out with a bunch of excuses which honestly looks incredibly poor for him, and confirms that he threw it all away, that he is like Buster Douglas in almost every sense of the parallels are uncanny. What happened there? The weight was the same that he put on for the second fight, 15 pounds. So Andy Ruiz Jr. should have, probably for his own cause and for history's sake, because it could have been recorded as he just didn't have enough to win the second fight. But his excuses really sort of place him in a bad light, and he threw it all away. But what do you make of it all? And what do you make of some fans who just can't give Joshua his due? That he fought well, he got the title. I'm not saying we need to bow down to his feet or anything like that. I'm saying it's a good win, and he moves on. He's got his titles back. It's a redemption story, yada, yada, yada. But I think some of the hate, it really is ridiculous. Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter. Boxing_squared. I'm out.